Printing was invented in China during the Tang dynasty, around the 8th century, under the reign of Emperor Taizong, 627 to 649. The initial printing process involved engraved wooden blocks to print texts and images on paper or other materials, but this technique wasn't widely used at that time. The invention of printing as we know it today is generally attributed to Johannes Gutenberg, a German inventor. In the mid-15th century, Gutenberg developed the printing press with movable metal type in Europe, around 1440. This revolutionary invention enabled the mass production of books and documents. This event marks the beginning of the modern typographic printing era in the West. The Bible was the first book printed by Gutenberg in 1455. He is considered the father of printing for bringing to life this universal means of communication that promotes the sharing of knowledge. No one knows what this world would have become without printing. This invention alone facilitated the development of written press, literacy, and above all, education worldwide. Electricity is undoubtedly one of the greatest scientific discoveries of all time. Without it, the world would still be in darkness. Who can live even a single day without electricity? In fact, even the work that provides us with our daily bread relies on electricity to exist. Its development has been the result of the work of researchers and scientists throughout history. As far back as ancient times, the ancient Greeks discovered that rubbing amber could attract light objects, like small pieces of paper. This was over 2,000 years ago and is one of the earliest observations related to static electricity. Later, the English physicist William Gilbert carried the torch, conducting in-depth studies on electricity and magnetism, and he's often considered the father of electrostatics. In the 18th century, Benjamin Franklin developed the concept of positive and negative charges through his various experiments. In 1800, Alessandro Volta invented the electric battery, making a major breakthrough in electricity production. In 1822, the first electric motor was invented by Pierre Barlow. However, it's Thomas Edison who is ultimately recognized as the founding father of electricity. He invented the first electric light bulb in 1879. His system involved rotating an alternator through a coal-fired turbine. This significant human invention paved the way for lighting, communications, industry, and numerous modern technologies. The invention of vaccines is both a scientific and medical breakthrough. Health is the most crucial aspect, as without it, there is no productivity. The initial efforts to safeguard against diseases date back to the 7th century. The first vaccine was developed by British physician Edward Jenner in 1796. He created the smallpox vaccine using cowpox as the basis. Jenner noticed that farm workers who frequently contracted cowpox seemed protected against smallpox, which was far more severe and deadly at the time. He conducted an experiment by inoculating a young boy with cowpox and then exposing him to smallpox, observing that the boy was indeed protected. Later, in 1885, French scientist Louis Pasteur invented the first effective rabies vaccine. He is considered one of the founding fathers of microbiology and modern medicine. In the early 20th century, Pasteur's followers, known as Pasteurians, continued his work by developing new vaccines. They created vaccines such as the BCG vaccine for tuberculosis, 1921, diphtheria, 1921 to 1924, yellow fever, 1927, and eventually polio, 1954. This discovery marked the beginning of vaccination, a practice that evolved over the years. Vaccines help prevent numerous dangerous infectious diseases, yielding remarkable results. The telephone has become an essential device in our daily lives. Indeed, this incredible invention allows us to stay in touch with our loved ones around the world. The first telephone was invented by Alexander Graham Bell. He was a Scottish inventor, scientist, and engineer, born on March 3, 1847, in Edinburgh, Scotland, and passed away on August 2, 1922, in Baddock, Nova Scotia, Canada. He is best known for his invention of the telephone, which he patented in 1876. However, it's worth mentioning that other inventors, like Elisha Gray, also worked on voice communication devices around the same time. But Bell is generally credited as the primary inventor of the telephone. The camera is one of the most remarkable inventions of the 19th century. This device allowed for immortalizing scenes and important life events. The first permanent camera was created in 1826. The French inventor Joseph Nicephore Niepce is behind this significant invention. He used a tin plate covered with bitumen of Judea, a photosensitive substance, placed inside a camera obscura to capture an image from a window of his house in Gras, France. Later, another Frenchman, Louis Daguerre, collaborated with Niepce and developed the daguerreotype process in 1839. This technique significantly reduced the exposure time needed to obtain an image, going from several hours to a few minutes. The daguerreotype quickly gained popularity and became the first commercially successful photography method. Concurrently, British scientist and inventor William Henry Fox Talbot introduced the calotype in 1841, a photographic process using paper coated with silver chloride. The calotype is one of the first photographic processes to use a negative, allowing for the production of multiple positive prints from the same image. In 1861, Thomas Sutton invented color photography. Then, in 1975, Stephen Sasson developed the first digital camera. In the realm of photography, other names deserve mention, such as Georges Eastman, the inventor of flexible negatives, or Sir Herschel, the inventor of cyanotype. Traveling around the world was not easy until humans invented the motorized airplane. Thanks to this invention, it became possible to traverse the planet without being hindered by the water of the seas. But who came up with the idea? Who is the engineer behind the convenience we enjoy today? Frenchman Clement Ader claimed to be the first man to have flown with an engine. However, this was never proven. The Wright brothers, Orville and Wilbur Wright, are recognized as true creative geniuses. They were the inventors and pioneers of American aviation. Their first successful flight took place on December 17, 1903, in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, USA. It was during this flight that their airplane, the Wright Flyer, covered a distance of about 36.5 meters in 12 seconds. Although others had worked on the concept of flight before the Wright brothers, their achievement marked the beginning of modern aviation. The first commercial flight took place in 1914. American entrepreneur Fansler opened an airline company connecting Tampa and St. Petersburg. The computer is an essential tool in our professional and personal lives. It is said that the analytical engine developed by British mathematician Charles Babbage was the precursor to the computer. Later, John Graham Cumming continued Charles' work. Alongside his colleague Laurence Wade, he built a much more advanced analytical machine, though the project was not completed. In 1936, Alan Turing formalized the concept of a universal machine, known as the Turing machine. This laid the groundwork for the theory of computation and the design of the first computers. In 1938, the first computer using the binary system was invented by Conrad Zuse. American engineers John W. Mauchly and J. Presper Eckert developed the first general-purpose electronic computer, the ENIAC, electronic numerical integrator and computer, which became operational in 1945. Starting from 1948, with the invention of the transistor, integrated circuit, and microprocessor, the power of computers increased significantly. It's important to note that the history of computing is the result of contributions from numerous researchers, engineers, and scientists over time. The first vehicle is said to have been invented by Joseph Cugnot in 1769. This vehicle is known as the Cugnot's Fardier. Later, the first self-propelled vehicle was invented by American Oliver Evans in 1789. In 1885, Carl Benz, a German engineer, built and patented a gasoline-powered vehicle that he called the Motorwagen, motor car in German. This vehicle had an internal combustion engine running on gasoline, 3 wheels, and could carry passengers. It is considered the first practical automobile, tricycle, to be powered by an internal combustion engine. The 1900s saw the birth of the automobile industry. Thanks to Henry Ford, fast personal transportation was born. The Ford Model T, which he designed, was the first automobile to be affordable and accessible to a large number of people. The Ford industry thus embarked on mass production. This marked the beginning of the automobile revolution. If we can now enjoy family moments around the television, it's thanks to the work of numerous inventors and scientists. Yes, television wasn't invented by a single person. In the 1920s, Scottish inventor John Logie Baird is known as the true pioneer of television. He managed to transmit live images through electromechanical signals, marking a significant milestone in the history of television. In 1926, he gave the first television demonstration in London. The image was still in black and white. In 1938, he returned even stronger with the first attempts at color television. Another inventor who certainly left a mark on television history is Philo Farnsworth. In 1927, He filed the first patent for an electronic television system. He thus designed the first system to capture and transmit electronic images using an electronic scanning process. The Internet is the result of a complex and collaborative evolution. Its origins date back to the 1960s, when the U.S. Department of Defense funded research into communication networks intended to withstand a potential nuclear war. In 1969, ARPANET became the first incarnation of what would become the Internet, connecting 4 American universities. Over the decades, communication protocols were standardized. Other networks such as NSFNet and Ethernet were added, allowing for broader interconnection. Indeed, the invention of the World Wide Web by Tim Berners-Lee in the 1990s revolutionized the accessibility and ease of use of the Internet. Today, the Internet has become an essential global infrastructure. It connects billions of people, devices, and services. As such, it has completely transformed our way of communicating, learning, working, and living.